Hi, welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks, and today we're going to talk about a topic called stagflation. I feel like we all know what inflation is, and pretty much that just means that things that you used to buy at a certain price increase over time, which ultimately kind of like reduces your purchasing power. And that's why people say if all you do is save your money, you're pretty much losing money because cost of goods always increase. They rarely ever go down. And so things that, let's say, used to buy something for $500 maybe like 4 years ago, that same item might now cost like $700 now. So I think, again, we all know what that is because we're seeing that happening in real time. Like the cost of eggs is high, that was through the roof for a while. We're seeing the price of vehicles increase. Gas is kind of like fluctuating. So I would say gas, maybe not, but definitely like food for sure is very expensive right now. And even going to like the store, I feel like every time I go to Walmart or like Target, it's at least like $120. It doesn't even matter what I buy, like it's always going to be around 100 and something. So I feel like we're all pretty good on what inflation is. Now, stagflation is something that is actually pretty rare. And so I kind of had to actually look up what that means because it's not something that you see as often as like inflation or recession. We actually haven't seen stagflation in the US since 1970. So it isn't very common, but it is pretty important right now. And so I wanted to talk about it because, again, there's just so much happening right now with the economy, with tariffs and everything like that. And so stagflation is pretty much where you have two bad things happening at the same time. So pretty much you have like a recession and inflation happening simultaneously. So with the recession, you see a lot of like job loss, you see a slowing in the economy, people aren't spending. And because people stop spending because they need to cut out luxuries so they can eat, they're running out of money and things like that, you tend to see the cost of goods kind of decrease. Now, inflation by itself, that tends to mean that there is like an excess of money. And so people are like overspending. And so the cost of goods are kind of rising. So typically those things happen separately. Now, with stagflation, that means that you have a slowing in the economy, plus you have an increase in the cost of goods. And the reason why there is kind of concerns that we might be heading into a period of stagflation is just because with tariffs and the cost of goods increasing, and then we're seeing a lot of layoffs happening, even in like government. And so, government used to be one of those things where everybody kind of thought it was like stable, which I don't really know why, because there's always talks of like government shutdowns at the end of the year and things like that. But for the most part, like government jobs were always kind of thought to be pretty stable. Like once you finally got in, you get your GS, you kind of promote over time, you do 20 years, you get your TSP, and you're done. Or even like the postal service and all these different things. But now we're seeing this administration wanting to cut a lot of spending. So there's a lot of job loss happening, or there's a lot of talk of job loss. I've told you guys a lot about like tech and how there's been a lot of job loss over the past few years. People are finding it a lot harder to get new employment. Like even getting an interview is a lot more difficult than it's pretty much ever has been. And so we're seeing these things kind of happening at the same time. And so Trump right now, he's kind of having like this feud with Jerome Powell, who is the Federal Reserve Chairman. And so Powell has said that he doesn't really want to cut rates right now, which makes sense because there's so much uncertainty and he doesn't really want to throw us into an official recession. Like, although a lot of analysts believe we're already in a recession, but he has shared that, he doesn't really want to cut rates. We're seeing like interest rates for homes staying around like the 6% and the 7%. And so Trump is saying that Jerome Powell is kind of like dragging his feet and he needs to hurry up and cut rates and he wants to see rates come down. Now, that would make sense if he also wasn't like creating all of these tariffs. And so there's kind of like a feud happening right now. And I was reading an article where it was saying that Trump called him like a major loser or something like that. And so Trump is kind of like attacking him right now for not cutting interest rates. And that is definitely having an impact still on the market. So we've definitely seen stocks take a huge hit ever since Trump announced his new tariff plan, especially when he actually like put these things into place. And so we're still seeing this happening right now, especially with him kind of having like this ongoing feud. He's said that he wants to actually see Powell removed from his position and things like that. And so that also creates a lot of uncertainty in the market as well. And Powell, he has shared that he does feel like, with tariffs, we're probably going to see like an increase in inflation. We're going to see like an increase in the cost of goods. And again, we're also seeing an increase in unemployment right now. So it's definitely, again, kind of an interesting time. Like I said earlier, we really haven't seen stagflation in the US since 1970. So at that time, the US was kind of paying for the Vietnam War. We were seeing a lot of unemployment and job loss due to like the loss of like manufacturing jobs. Oil was very high at that time. And so you had the cost of goods rising, and then you also had a lot of high unemployment. So again, this is not very common because usually you kind of have one or the other. So typically, if let's say the feds they want to kind of increase spending, they'll tend to cut interest rates. So that's why, like in 2021, you've seen all of these people rake up on these amazing interest rates for their homes because after COVID, we were trying to kind of boost spending, boost the economy, all those different things, right? And then typically in a recession, you'll start to see, again, people stop spending, of course. So those two things tend to not happen at the same time. And so that's why there's a lot of pressure right now on the feds with interest rates and things like that because the rates aren't really moving. We're still seeing the cost of goods increasing, and then we're starting to see an increase in unemployment as well. So I would definitely say, and not just me, like a lot of analysts are saying, and mind you, I am not a financial advisor. This is just my own financial education that I'm sharing with you guys. But they're definitely saying that saving right now is going to be probably pretty important. Also, kind of like avoiding credit card debt. And it's hard to do that in an economy like this because everything that you used to buy is more expensive. So you might want to put it on a credit card and pay it off over time. Whereas in the past, it was easier to kind of just pay cash for something outright. But they're definitely advising against that. They're definitely recommending having like a nest egg. And, if those things are in place where you've reduced your credit card debt, you have a decent nest egg, let's say for maybe like 6 months to a year, and then you're in a pretty good place, now might actually be a good time to invest because, again, we're learning all of this to fuel our rich life. So I'm always going to bring it back to investing. So if you're looking at investing in like the total stock market or something like that, we're seeing the S&P 500 and like all of these index funds are declining in price right now because of all the uncertainty. So if you are at a good place where you're able to invest, now is kind of like a better time to buy those stocks when it's on a discount. Now, I can't tell you what stocks to buy and all those different things because, again, I'm not a financial advisor. But if you are looking to invest right now, recessions tend to be when the most millionaires are made because when you're investing, you're looking for the best deals. You don't want to be buying a lot of things when everything is at its highest point. So, like the one of the index funds that I looked at, I think I shared before that maybe a few years ago I was looking at buying it and it was like $300, around 300. This is like VU. And then now it's trending around $400 and $500. So if you are looking at different stocks, these times like of uncertainty when people are kind of like selling off their stocks might be a really good time to buy because again, you're able to get a lot more shares at a discount. But I would definitely say now is not the best time to be getting a lot of credit card debt. Now is probably not the best time to be buying new cars and all of these different things, just because, again, there is a big concern that we're going to see even more unemployment. And then we're also going to see a lot of higher costs. So, as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? Again, I'm Joy Hicks, your host. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.